a written loan modification. The homeowner signed it, sent it off to the bank, and then fully performed. The bank thereafter sold the property, even though the borrower, the homeowner, was fully performing. Why? And the homeowner lost up on appeal. Why did the homeowner lose? Because the bank didn't sign the loan modification. Yeah, statute of frauds. Statute of frauds says this: any agreement that touches or concerns real property must be in writing, and it must be signed by the party against whom enforcement is sought. The court was sensitive to the fact that the bank was the one that provided the loan modification. The court was sensitive to the fact that the borrower, the homeowner, fully performed. But the statute of fraud says it has to be in writing, it has to be signed by all the parties, and it wasn't.
In that case wherein the bank offered the loan modification, is it true that even though the bank offered the loan modification, the credit report will have a negative impact on the homeowner?
You're asking another credit question?
No, in that case wherein the loan modification was offered by the bank, so it will be affecting the credit report too, right?
Well, here's what I tell people about credit. The problem with credit is simply this. Your FICO score is a proprietary mathematical calculation. Each credit bureau, there's 3 of them, has their own proprietary mathematical calculation. Nobody can intelligently tell you how your credit is going to fare, because one, it requires you to have a knowledge as to what that mathematical formula is, and we don't, because it's proprietary. They don't share it with anybody. And then secondly, how is the bank going to report it? The banks have a contract, though, I can tell you this much, with the credit bureaus that requires them to report accurate information. So if you're in arrears, they're going to report you as being in arrears. So what does that mean to your FICO score? I don't know. I tell people, why are you worrying about that? Focus more on your finances. And if you can get control of your finances, okay, well then the credit will take care of itself. Get control of your finances. Everything else will take care of itself. Questions? There's got to be somebody have a question. Questions? Question in the back.
When is the best time to file a loan modification?
When is it? Well, there is no good or bad time necessarily to apply for a loan modification. If that's something that you're thinking about doing, give it a whirl. But now that you're aware, you should be aware of how to approach it. The best time is after you've done the analysis that I've discussed here today. Don't approach a loan modification or attempt a loan modification until you've done the analysis to figure out what it means to you. If you lied on that loan application, you got to think long and hard about whether or not you want to make that financial disclosure. The answer to that is going to vary from person to person, from homeowner to homeowner. If you're in a stated income loan, you lied on that loan app, you got to think long and hard. If you say, well, no, I didn't lie, everything's fine, I told the truth, everything's accurate, okay, well then bank fraud's not a concern. But then you have to concern yourself with, do you have sufficient income available for principal and interest where it creates a realistic shot for you in modifying the loan? Understand, and please understand this, that there is no statutory or legal right to a loan modification. To the contrary, you have a pre-existing duty to perform under the original terms of the original contract. When you stop performing, you're in breach of contract, you're the bad guy. And you're not going to garner a lot of sympathy within the legal system.
But you're not going to be approved if there's a change in your income? Say you're laid off.
Okay, you're asking...
How can you still continue on your legal obligation because your income is not different when you sign the contract to them.
Okay, it's a good question. That's a good question. He's asking, it's essentially the question is this, is how's the bank going to exercise its discretion? How's the bank going to exercise discretion? I've had a change of circumstances. Will the bank consider my change of circumstances, right? Well, no, not really. What the bank is concerned with is what alternatives do they have before them that will result in the most amount of money coming in as quickly as possible. Either what you're proposing to them represents their best alternative, or it doesn't. If it doesn't, then they're going to pursue whatever they perceive to be in their best alternative. But the standard that the lenders use in evaluating alternatives is money in the door as quickly as possible. In other words, which option that's available to them will make them as whole as possible, as quickly as possible. And either what you're proposing represents that best alternative or it doesn't.
So when they modify your loans, is that going to be an agreement or in the same?
It has to be, for the modification to be enforceable, it has to be in writing and it has to be signed by both parties. You want it to be signed by both parties. If you don't have the bank's signature on it, it's not worth the paper it's written on.
When you say the bank?
Yep.
The bank is different from the lender?
The bank and the lender. I'm using those terms interchangeably. You want to get their signature on it. We're seeing a lot of loan modifications and short sale agreements where there's no signature line for the bank.
So when they modify your loan and sign it, is that in continuance on your previous years agreement? Let's say your 30 years contract, and when they modify, is that going to be the same as 30 years?
Okay, you're asking what are they going to do with the term of the loan and the modification. That varies from bank to bank and from deal to deal.
So it's not permanent modification?
There is no, the bank is either, when you're presented with the loan modification, you got to read it. And then that will answer the question for you as to what they're giving you. Not everybody is treated the same. I'm going to say that again. Not everybody is treated the same. So what you're going to have to do is do some homework. And when they give you the loan modification, you're going to have to pull it out and you're going to have to read it. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of treating this like a school project where you want to get an A. Because you're going to be the one that's going to bear the consequences of a bad decision. The bank does not care. Let me explain how much they don't care. They have a collection department is in a big facility like this with a bunch of cubicles. Somewhere in that department is going to be a big dry board with all the names of the collectors and monthly goals they have to hit for money coming in the door. Usually there's a siren or a bell that they ring when they've hit their quota. Because they hit their quota, that means they get a commission. They're incentivized to squeeze as much money out of the homeowner or borrower as possible. They get to keep their employment if they hit their monthly goals. They get additional income the more successful they are pulling money in the door. And they do celebrate when they get a big payday coming in. They don't care about the impact that it necessarily has on you. Ask me how I know this. I used to be one of those guys ringing the bell. Yeah, question?
What's the best approach on settling your credit card today? Let's say you have $10,000. You owe them $10,000. How do you approach that, like, settling debt?
He's asking the question, how best to approach settling credit card debt. What I tell clients is this, it depends. If you have 10 different credit cards, and if you're confronted with a scenario where if you fail to negotiate with all of them a settlement, you're looking at a bankruptcy because there's no way for you to survive, then I would tell you save your money and file the bankruptcy. Because the odds of you putting it all together with 10 independent different credit card companies and successfully negotiating 20 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar, whatever the number may be, the odds of you successfully